not coming.
It is.
So I just push it like this. Yes. Yeah, good afternoon. And I think, it's snowed outside. So I think I hope still the people who are remaining here, like your spirit is not dampened like it's. So I just want to take that, confirmations and the last presentations of the day, and it's between you and the rest of the day. Like so, I want to make it very focused, and this is in continuations of what our Survey General about that the Indian the strategy for the geospatial the standard development, and this is an example of some of that how we have utilized it for. In a use case scenario, like as Alan was asking about, like some of the use cases. So if you we are listening to Marina just now, the geospatial standards of the ecosystem cannot be an isolated one. Similarly, the geospatial standards, like it's not an isolated one. Actually, the India has a the National Standard Action Plan standards in the context of a larger standardization context, because as you know, the standardizations provides you the basis of the innovations and that. And so in this context, if you look it into, these are the drivers of the economic growth, the public policy regulations, the digital, the engineering, other enabling technology, and the climate change and the sustainability. So these are the drivers for any standardizations in the context of any context. And so the strategic drivers and the imperatives, as you can see here on the left-hand side, is the the participations, and then the improving ability of the standardizations, and then the build capacity, innovate, energy, the promoting synergy, strengthen participation, and again national outreach program. So in this the context of the standards, if you look at it into the Indian this geospatial the standard ecosystem, this is again a part of a larger India's digital public infrastructure ecosystem. I think many of, whether you know or not, like this Indian this digital infrastructure in the digital public infrastructure ecosystem, India stands globally the third now. So if unified public infrastructures, there is a DG Yatra, like now if you are traveling in India in a airport, we don't have to show your ticket. So this is the DG Yatra, you scan it and you go seamlessly inside, like so that system is there. ONDC is basically a the online as you do in Amazon. So this is an India-driven the Indian government-driven the platform. We have a DG Locker. So this gives you the digital footprint of you during life and beyond life, because you can store all of your data into the digital locker. And so it's starting from your birth certificate to your death certificate, and between your driving license, everything your digital. So you don't carry anything is in the the physical form. So if you are you are being confronted by a cop, you take out your the mobile and show it from the digital locker that this is my the driving license. So the foundations of this India's the stack of the digital ecosystems are these three. Like these are sorry, as what is this? This is not coming here. Okay, oh, this is not showing at all. Yeah. So as you see here, the foundations are the identify layer. So this contains all your digital identification. Then there's a payment. Most of the Indian payments are now in digital. So we have a unified payment interface. So you do the digital, and then the data empowerment. That's basically to enable the secure and the sharing. So in that context, if you look at it into it, coming to the geospatial that we have in India's geospatial or the digital, the public infrastructures is there. So the digital geospatial, the DPI is, like this is that's in another digital or geospatial infrastructures, which benefits transforming the governance, the enabling the data-driven decision-making, fostering the innovations of the economic growth, and high data quality. So on the right-hand side, you see some of the sectors which have been enabled through this DPI, but at the core of it, the cementing all of these things are the standardizations, which ensures the interoperability, the data quality, the reusability of the geospatial information. So in the context of in Indian use cases, as we say, that these are the, the national programs which are driving. So the, you see the key governance program. One is the Prime Minister's Gati Shakti, it's an Indian term. Gati means speed, Shakti means power. So this is to bring the efficiency in all the sectors of the governance. How you can improve the efficiency through the data-driven context and the core of the backbone of that in the digital data. So, this is basically a GIS-based platform which integrate. It started with the 16 the ministries coordinations, and which started in 2021, which gives a real time, the data project, the data monitoring and the coordinations, and optimize the infrastructure development. This is being again guided on the right-hand side. You can see the National Data Governance Framework, which is a framework which established standardizations, guidelines in the government and management. Geospatial standards, again, as I say, that it's not in isolation. The National Data Governance Framework has already data, the standards guidelines. So it is in alignment with that. And then standardized, it helps in standardized data collections and the management, whether it's spatial and the non-spatial, data quality and the metadata standards with the spatial and the non-spatial, and the secure access of the mechanisms of the intergovernmental sharing, and there is an India data management from that. So these are basically the backbone on which the geospatial standards work and create the use cases. So this is basically, if you can say that this is the digital highway in which the India's, the implementations of any standards, whether it is spatial, non-spatial, or physical and non-physical, it works. Now talking about the PM Gati Shakti, this is a, the national, it is a master plan. As you can see here, and currently there are 41 ministries, they are, interacting with their data log this. And this is an example, what you can, of the National Data Governance Framework. As you can see that there is a National Data Governance Policy which came in 2022 to establish, the standardized, since I cannot see here, so I have to turn up because I can't see, it's too small here. So establish the standardized guidelines for the data management across government systems. And it standardized the data management process of the government. It secured the access, it ensured the data quality standards, and it has in India, the data sets program. So if you look at it from the geospatial perspective, this is already, like the Survey General has talked about, these are the key Indian standards of the geospatial informations with the Bureau of Indian Standards that's developed. There are 16, 2 of them are totally indigenous, and these are the projects which are going on currently. I think he has discussed about like that. But now out of that, if you look it into the alignment with the ISO standards which we are discussing over the time, these are mainly the standards which has been implemented and utilized. The ISO 1915, the metadata, which is all of that the defined schema for describing geographic informations. Then 19168, the geospatial API standards, which defines the API for accessing geospatial data, enabling interoperable services. 157, the data quality, and 1915, the digital right, which sometimes it's known as a GeoDRM also. Now, how all of these things have been used? I just will, give you some of the, examples here. This is an example, as you see here, there was one of the states in India in the northern side called Uttarakhand, many of you, as you know India, Himalaya. So this is in Himalayan states. So since it's in the northern side of Himalaya, there was as that there are a lot of, environmental extreme events are going on. So this is a result of an extreme events. And there was a, a flash flood, which is, you see that this is the place, there was a flash flood took place. So National Remote Sensing Centers and the Uttarakhand State Management Authority, they, they utilize these standards at the back end, the geospatial standards, the 191152 in the context of the metadata, because they are using the remote sensing data as well as the data which they are collecting from the UAV, the drone flying. And they're trying to integrate then using the, one-to-one data, like, and the ISO 19123. These are the schemas and the, the imagery standard data, which covers the, the observation in the. So as a result of that, the disasters, aftermath, they were online and the immediate sending that the informations to the, the team on the ground that where to go for the rescue operation. So that, like what is happening, since it is a, the hilly area, many of the cases that the stream which were going at the different and the heavy flow was taking place. So they were guiding the teams that, where to go to, the rescue people. Like, so this is an example like how from the standard you can really, the help in the after any this type of a disaster, you can, really help people for the, the rescue operation. Then I was talking about that this Gati Shakti program, like, this, the standards are the backbone of this Gati Shakti program. So it is all the adaptations of the ISO 1915, ISO 1907, which is the geometry, and the 19123, which are the coverage, which ensures seamless exchange of the spatial data from the multiple, the ministries, like the railways, roads, energy, and provide a standardized geospatial framework. It follows the FAIR principles, the find, accessibility, interoperable, reusable. This is the framework like, which is being utilized for that. And this gives the basis of the future AI and the decision support system based, that. One example, this is an, the case in the context of this, this Prime Minister's Gati Shakti program. There is a, like all of us come from the Delhi, I think, like Delhi is the capital of India. And this Amritsar and Katra are again, the nearby cities. Like, so there was a requirement for alignment in planning for the Delhi, Amritsar and the Katra Expressway. So the challenge was to get, it was the critical data sets like the forest, there are defense zones, there are power lines, canals, heritage sites, and these were being held by different ministries. So getting the data from the different ministries in the one standardized form, integrating them and to find it out what's the right and the optimal path for the alignment of that road was the challenge. So how the, the geospatial data interface helped? It took the ISO OGC compliant layers, like as you can see, 19115, 144, which is, the land use data, and the OGC, the WMS and the WFS. Then the real-time overlays from the Ministry of, the Railway, Ministry of, the Road and Transport, Ministry of, Environment, Forest, Power Grid, the different states. And then it resulted into the optimal, the way. And then it becomes, when it becomes a data, the driven and it became apparent, then the stakeholders were brought together to do the conflict resolutions. As Melina was talking about that, the legal interoperability, so that becomes the basis of the legal interoperability. So the outcome is an optimized alignment in 48 hours, which would have otherwise taken probably 48 the months. Avoided ecological and heritage impacts, and reduced delays and improved transparency. So this is the situations I just wanted to study. Before this type of standard-based, GDI, the situation was, it was a fragmented data sets. And as I've told, it's from the different departments in the ministries. Now after the GDI, there's ISO OGC standardized layers. Earlier, it used to be mostly a manual data exchange. I type and say that, send me the data. Then someone says that I delve into and look it into, no, again I send the feedback. Now there is a real-time multi-agency overlays. Then months for analysis. Now it is within 48 hours. Duplication and conflicts, the same data coming from different sources, different ownerships. So that can be, addressed with single authoritative data sets. Low transparency, the fully auditable decisions. Now I know the metadata, who is the, the origin generator of the data, and then we can, have a fully auditable decisions, I can say. And then the environmental risks were there, and now it's an early conflict detection. So this is the way, like the standards in action. It shows that how, standard as in, what I can see, the cement behind can improve the efficiency of utilization of the geospatial data in the different aspects of the governance. Now, as all of you know, the ISO and OGC always, they're working in tandem. And in India also, there is an OGC India. We work very, closely. There is a Indian Space Research Organizations as a, portal, which is called Bhuvan. And the Bhuvan Geospatial, the geoportal, it integrates a range of the, the OGC standards. As you can see here, the web mapping service of WMS, which is, like the ISO 19128, the equivalent. Web feature service, which is, the OGC WFS2 is, the ISO 19142. Then, the catalog service for the web, CEDA ASW, which is again, integrated with the, 195 and 199. So I think there is a huge requirement, and the, the operation is going on in the harmonizations between the ISO and the OGC standards for, creating this type of solutions on the ground. Integrated geospatial digital data exchange interface, our, Survey General sir has talked about it. So this also, uses many of this, OGC and the ISO standards at the back. OGC features like an API for accessing vector data, which is ISO 168. Then OGC tiles API for visualizing the raster and vector data as a base map, which is, ISO 1977, the geographic information API for the tiles, and the OGC coverage API for accessing coverage data, which is ISO 1923. So this shows that, at the back end, there needs a lot of, the harmonizations, efforts between the OGC, ISO, and many other, like, he has given example of an DGP, like, which is another standardizations, body as a result, like, which has been integrated into. So in the future, India is following basically the FAIR principles and getting ready for the AI-ready geospatial ecosystem. The ultimate, the objective is, as we are looking into, like, now the GIS system, it is getting, into the digital twin environment, and from there is the metaverse or the, the universe, that system. So in order to be ready for that, the India is following the, the FAIR principles, operationalizing it via the ISO metadata and the quality standards. There are a lot of AI-based public goods, we are getting ready, like some of them are agriculture, urban analytics, disaster response, ethical and transparent AI. Like this is, is a requirement where ISO standards can enable the responsible use of the geospatial intelligence, and ultimately created a trusted Geo-Data Commons, which is a secure, interoperable repository frameworks across ministries and the other, the stakeholders. This is an example. We have an agricultural stack for the agriculture, the sectors. As you can see, this edX is the agriculture data exchange. And on the left, you can see there are many of the government data sets, which through the, the standards are creating a different, the data which can be used by the private sectors to create the economic value and for the social, the solutions. So that's creating an enabling environment, especially as you know that India is an agriculture-based country, and majority of our farmers are small farmers, the marginal and the small farmers. So for the benefit of that how this standards can be a great enabler to bring it in there. So this is an example, in the context of an agricultural stuff. Then for being ready, we have to do a continuous research. So the continuous research is being, it's going on. The Department of Science and Technology of Government of India, supports different, the projects. So this is one of the, the projects being supported at the, the IIT Bombay, which is looking into the Geo-AI, that how the, the ISO, that the SC42, the artificial intelligence standards, this different working group has been constituted, and they are working on the different aspects of that to contribute to the, the ISO, the SC42 standards. So this is some of the, example that how we are trying to use this, the standards and into the larger, the data, the governance framework, as well as our standardizations framework of the nations. So what is the way forward? Some of them has been shown by our, the Honorable Surveyor General. But we need continuous, interactions with the ISOTC 2211, and I think we are doing so. As we have many of my colleagues are here, also online. There are many colleagues are there. We want to contribute. We want to learn, and we want to, contribute that what we are learning through that. We need a standardization of the compliance mechanism, because that's exactly what I was asking, that, how we develop a compliance mechanism, unless and until, because any standards in the world can be, they enforce only through compliance. If you see in this room, there are many standards are working, starting from this machine, which I'm, I'm speaking, the light, what is on, these switches, all are having a standards beyond that. They are working seamlessly because there is a compliance mechanism. So when you purchase something, you know that this is complying to that particular standards. I think we need ultimately that type of a scenario from a geospatial, the information's perspective. And future readiness, as you see, as we are moving from GIS-based systems to the digital to an AI-enabled systems, we should be ready for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dutta. That was fantastic. I did feel that you were some really good use cases, and that standards are obviously the driver behind creating those. And I did like the table where you actually created the benefits of standards. So I think we need to keep that in mind, because if we don't, if we're unable to talk about the benefits, then who's going to listen to us and fund us going forward? So yeah, no, that's important. Okay, does anyone have any questions for Dr. Dutta? March.
Thank you very much for your presentation. As more a comment, really, I agree with you about the need for some form of compliance checkers. A third-party provider would be wonderful. I know that with the Australian government, one of the biggest issues is we have it written in our procurement requirements that things must be standards-based. So someone might procure something and they're told it's standards-based.
But you don't know,
Don't know.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. I agree I think that's a gap. I'm not sure how it can be filled. I've been asking that question for about 10 years, so we'll have to keep asking.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Chris.
Chris, yeah. All my Australian friends.
Thank you. How important has the Prime Minister's policy and directive driving your outcomes?
Actually, examples and the use cases I've shown, this PM Gati Shakti Prime Minister's, it's his pet project. So it's being monitored constantly from the Prime Minister's office. So that's the level of the interest he takes, because, he's a person, is a tech-savvy person and who understands that the importance of geospatial, the informations in the context of the governance. And that's that's good fortune from India, like that's because you need a the political support for any this type of things. I think in the nations we have two leaders like who are really understand that the digital the data's importance in the context of a governance. One is our prime ministers, like honorable prime ministers, and another is the one of the chief ministers of one of the states in Andhra Pradesh, like Chandrababu Naidu, like he was also one of the change makers in the context of using the digital data for governance. And I think these are the champions and the change makers who really helps the the technologies to perform for to make the changes and the digital transformation. Yeah.
As a follow-up question, therefore, how much pressure is then placed on your departments to actually deliver now these programs with the oversight of the prime ministers now looking at?
Okay, I think in order to answer these questions, I will go back 35 years before. I was handling a UNDP supported project. It was a GIS based technologies for the local governance, local planning. And I was handling a project in a very small, in our administrative structure, it's called district, we have a nations, then, the state, and below state, we have districts. It was in West Bengal. So I remember, when we went, that was end of 90s. So first time we went with the technology, and there are 32 departments. So I was presenting, and then the next, after 6 months, I went to get the data. Out of 32, there were hardly 2 departments which came back. So it was disappointing for a young person that time. I was looking into that, but we persisted. We interacted. I came back and I tried to interact with the decision makers at the state level. 6 months back, we have a local guy who is looking into the data generations, interacting with the departments. Next time, there are 5. Very happy. From 2 to 3, 3 people have increased. Then it was from 95 to 2000. That UNDP project was about to be completed. We had in between, we had a number of, the interactions. Then we established a center at the district. It was a demand from the district authority, and there are 32 out of the 32 departments. At that time, around 17 started using the geospatial data. 2005, from that experience, now in the state of West Bengal, I established this type of GIS-based systems from 1 district to 21 districts. Science takes time to go into this social system. And this is an example in the experience what I've. So what you say about in the context of the Prime Minister's, this program, initially there was a directive from the Prime Minister's office to all the ministries. Even there was a national consultations from our, the Department of Space and the ISRO to all the, the ministries. But now the situation has come that there is a demand-driven situations. So the ministries are asking, because when the ministries, there will always be a good and bad people, that's all over in the world and in the context of the governance. So the people who are running it, when they saw that it will improve their workflow processes, the efficiency of the workflow processes, the demand will be, the increase in the demand of the geospatial will be automatic. And that's the pathway we have to find, that how we can bring now the role of standards so that this, the human-driven and the institutional-driven processes can be strengthened through these geospatial standards. This is my example I've given you. Please. I didn't explain. So many questions, at the end of the day. Yeah, so.
Yeah, okay. So I have a little bit question to the side,
Sure.
because I have the privilege to work with several colleagues from India in the standardization for IoT and digital twins. and you have several very good contributions and very skilled people participating. I hope to meet some of them at the plenary meeting next week in Berlin. But in the whole area of IoT and digital twins, I feel that we are sometimes lacking the expertise from geospatial side. So my question is, do you have a lot of cooperation with between the national bodies in India, or could you otherwise search contact? Because I think that would be a mutual large benefit for both groups to get in contacts also at the national level in India. Thank you.
So what's the other part you told? Like I couldn't, follow.
IoT and digital twins. This is a national mirror committee for SC41.
Okay.
I mean, you mentioned some of the committees here, so I was just interested because since I'm engaged there, and I know that I sometimes feel that there are discussions about geospatial topics where there is obviously a lack of expertise within this area. And so that's my question. That's why I wonder, because I see that you are very engaged in not only 211, but in the whole standardization
ecosystem.
World.
This is probably it takes place when technology gets introduced, not in the context of any nation's socioeconomic context. I always believe that, because what happens when you introduce a technology, there are some people who will totally follow the technology pathway. And this interactions between I'm just saying that IoT and this people as a X, and the geospatial people as a Y, or any other technology as in Z. These interactions between the X, Y, and Z needs to be the enforced by an external the agencies, as in this case I was talking about in the Prime Minister's office and so. So unless and until that there is an organic linkages these people understand, then there will not be in the interactions. So there can be a national framework which talks about and that's exactly what you see here in the, therefore I didn't talk about the geospatial only. I talked about the total national data governance framework, and it will take some time so that this different components of the data, the informations, these communities start interacting. But again, because they are being guided by the different technologies, not the outcome or the governance. So I believe this will take some time, and this data governance, national data governance framework, as I've told that it has come into 2020 itself. So these are the learning, we have a national the e-governance framework, and we have the other governance framework. So whatever the learning out of that we are training, and I believe this disjoint between these different groups of the technologies will happen, but by the nature it takes some time. That's my experience.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Dutta. Thank you.
Thank you very much.